John here again for another episode of All the Way. As always, accompanied by my good friend and producer, Mr. DV. DV, throw up the pose. Oh, man. That is both scary and sexy. I don't know how the women can take it.
They can't because I'm taken. Oh, look at that. See how devoted I am?
You are. That's true. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming back once again. If you do like us, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the channel. All the Way, just one of the fine programs brought to you from Distant Warrior Studios. Check us out. All our fine offerings right there on the YouTube page. But most importantly, please subscribe so YouTube loves us. Good. All right. Now, for today's episode, DV, I decided to focus on something that really is the bane of men's existence.
The bane of men's existence.
Right. Not the guy with the mask.
Not that right. Bane. Oh, not from Batman?
No, not that
okay. Bane. Just the bane. Ingrown hairs?
No.
No?
No. I'm not sure what you mean. In other words, the pain in the ass for most men.
Hemorrhoids.
That too.
Oh, that too? Wait, there's something else besides hemorrhoids?
Yes.
What the hell are you doing?
DV. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, let me show you something. Today's episode, you can see the paper. Wrinkled. Crinkled beyond belief, rather. Okay? This is after my wife read through it. You know, I was at the dinner table, DV, getting ready, prepping, writing some stuff down, printing it out, you know. And, you know, the wife is, you know, every so often she comes over, gives me a little kiss, rubs my shoulders, a little something, you know.
Yeah.
You know, as husband and wives might do, you know.
Oh, wait a second. Husband and wife and you were touching?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that's weird.
But she saw what I actually wrote and printed out.
Okay.
This was her reaction. You can see, I'm not lying to you, ladies and gentlemen. Crumpled paper.
Oh, shit.
I just took that shit and took it with me because I said, this is a badge of honor.
Oh, my God.
So today's All the Way episode is all about how men are better at everything in life.
Once again, misogyny. Here we go.
No, I'm Greek.
Here we go.
Okay, I know what misogyny means.
Okay, what does it
It
mean?
means the hatred of women.
Right.
I don't hate women.
You don't? I mean...
I just say they drive me crazy and every other man on the planet.
Okay.
Now, first of all, let me set the stage for this.
All right.
Have you seen this viral video lately? It's got all these famous actresses and otherwise famous women. Octavia Spencer, I think Jennifer Lawrence is part of it. Who's the other one? What's her face? Jessica, the redhead. What's her name? The actress?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
She was in The Martian or something.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Not
Jessica Biel.
It'll eventually come to us.
Yeah. Taraji P. Henson's in it, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
But basically it was this piece of propaganda put out by the left wing that is there to tell us that it will take 208 years, very specific number, for women to gain gender equality with men. Now, that sounds horrible, right? Except that it's completely wrong.
It is?
Yes. First of all, let's get something straight. Women are not discriminated against. There is no such thing as gender inequality. First of all, women have half the money and all the pussy. So I don't understand how they could possibly feel that they're unequal to men. They've already got a leg up, right? They've got half the money, most of it which is earned by men, and then the other half is they got all the pussy. So the one thing that men want from women, which is pussy, only women have, obviously. And then once we have the money, they get half of it.
Well, you don't think there's discrimination, like when they walk down the street because they have the pussy and guys are catcalling and all that stuff? You think that's cool?
No, of course not. But I don't consider that gender inequality. I just consider that men being assholes.
I know. Well, definitely.
There's a difference.
That's discrimination.
No. Being an asshole is being an asshole. It doesn't mean you're discriminating. It just means you're an asshole. All right? But here's where I'm trying to get at. For example, let's get some science out of the way. Because as you know, I am a scientist, ladies and gentlemen.
That's true.
Despite everything else about me, I'm a scientist. There's this theory that has a lot of legs underneath it called the greater male variability theory. Okay, now I'll get serious for a second. What this theory says is, if you took the typical bell curve, right? The bell curve Statistically speaking, what this curve tells us is that populations tend to be distributed along that curve, DV.
Okay.
Most people will be between the two tails, like on the curvy part of the bell.
Right.
On each end of the tails, the flat parts, are what you call exceptions, right? They're like maybe somewhere around 10% of the total population, right?
Right.
This theory says that men are disproportionately at the tails of this bell curve. It doesn't mean all men. It doesn't mean that there's no women. It just means that the majority are men at those tails. What does that mean? It means that in terms of everything that happens on this planet, you have more male geniuses than you have female geniuses, for example. You have more male super athletes than female super athletes. And now you may say, well, John, that's just because you want to say that men are better at everything. But no, what the theory also tells us is at the back end of the curve, that's why you have more men who are serial killers. That's why the despots and the crazy people of history are men, not women. Like, how many serial killer women are there? Like 3 or 4. Eileen Warmus, maybe, right, in the U.S.?
Right.
Maybe 1 or 2 that I can't think of. But out of 100 serial killers, say, 96, 97 of them are going to be men. Most of the prison population is men because we tend to also have the worst of humanity in us. But we also have the best. So that's the greater male variability theory. First of all, you will never hear about this theory spoken about by women. And they fought very hard to make sure the colleges don't get it. And the reason for that is because they're really in the middle. Now, I don't know why that's bad, DV. Do you think it's bad to just say, hey, you're part of the population that really isn't exceptional, but you're really not serial killers and losers?
Right. I mean, I guess...
You hear what I'm saying? It's not crazy to say that, is it?
No, I mean, I guess it's more about, as a male, you're either cool or you live in your mom's basement.
Right.
But if you're a woman, you're not really either or.
Right.
But you're just like, you live in your own apartment. Like, you're good.
Right, right. And here's the thing, like, for example, those incels that you read about that lose their shit every so often.
Yeah.
What are they called? Involuntary celibates or something like that? Incels?
Yeah.
You don't see female incels.
No.
Ever.
No.
And there's 2 reasons for that. One is, again, they're not at the tail end of the crazy population.
Right.
Generally speaking. And B, the reason there's incels is because women ain't giving up the pussy. So when you look at it, women really have it good on both ends, right? Because they're not genetically predisposed to being nuts over sex. And B, they're the ones who control sex anyway. So you got to keep that in mind. All right, another reason why men are better. There is literally nothing in the realm of the physical world that women can do that's better than what men can do. 0, except for maybe giving birth.
Yeah, that's just a big one, though.
Yeah, no, agreed. But I'm saying in anything that doesn't require a vagina or a penis, but just physical ability, men are superior at women at everything. Think about it. The number 1 female tennis player,
Serena Williams,
right, lost to the 200th ranked male who had retired and drank a beer while he played her.
Okay, what did this happen?
It happened, by the way. Look it up.
It did?
I just don't remember the dude's name, but it happened in Australia. The guy got off his couch. There was some sort of challenge. And
Serena Williams?
Yeah.
Lost
before she had the baby. So she was at her peak.
Uh-huh.
And lost to this dude. Like, people will point to Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs, that she beat Bobby Riggs. But let me point out something. First of all, without making excuses for the guy, first of all, he was in his late 50s when he played her, and she was at her peak. So there was like a 30-year difference in age. He was an old man. B, there's a lot of evidence that says that Riggs bet on himself to lose and threw the game. Because you have to understand back then what was going on was there was the whole feminist thing going on, but at the same time, Bobby Riggs was a degenerate gambler.
Oh, so he was at the bottom of that bell curve.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So there's a good thing. There's some evidence that shows that he, now again, Billie Jean won, fair is fair, but there is some evidence to suggest that he really threw the game. But think about it. MMA, there is absolutely no woman, Cyborg, I don't care who you pick. What's her name? Roman, who's that? Rose, I forget her name. She's like the featherweight champion now. You could put her in the ring with me, and she'd probably beat the shit out of me. Right? Because I'm a 55-year-old overweight man, right?
Yeah, she can blow your way, you fuck.
But a man at her age, in any sort of shape, is going to beat the living shit out of her. Like even Joe Rogan says something like this, okay? Men's physicality is just, we have heavier bone structure. We can, I'm not even talking about that old joke about taking pain and what's more painful than childbirth or anything like that. I'm just saying physically. That's why the best female records in any Olympic sport, running, jumping, swimming, everything like that, the best women are always less successful than the male counterparts. So when you look at the female 100-yard dash record holder, her time is slower than Usain Bolt. And she might be slower than the top 10 men, say, whoever finished. So from the physical perspective, there's absolutely no way that women come close to men. And that's why women's sports suck.
What?
Yes.
Women's sports does not suck.
Women's sports suck. Women's sports are boring. As a matter of fact, if you watch the first video of this series, which is Why Soccer Blows, check it out, you'll remember me making the argument that if the women's version of the sport is almost as good as the men's, then it's not a sport, it's a pastime. And that's true because women just are not as physically gifted as men. That's all there is to it. I mean, you should just accept it and move on. All right, the next thing, DV, how men are better than women? When we don't get a job, we don't claim it's discrimination.
What?
Women claim it's discrimination. So there's a gender gap that they're always bitching about. They only make 77 cents on the dollar and all that. That's all just bull. It's not true. It's been debunked over and over again by mathematicians and economists, okay? Maybe if you...
But were they men?
Yes, because women aren't good at math.
What? What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, wasn't it like a woman that helped send a rocket up into space?
Yeah, see, I knew you were going to bring that up. Right? So we know that there were these two famous, actually black women at NASA in the late 60s who were very integral to getting, Armstrong or Shepard. Armstrong, right? Or no, it was Shepard.
No, it was Shepard first.
First one, Shepard. Into orbit, all right? And we know that their names were Octavia Spencer and Taraji P. Henson, right? So these two women were very integral. But again, I'm not taking anything. And Grace Hopper, right? I personally am a fan of Grace Hopper, one of the first. She was an admiral in the Navy who invented the programming language COBOL. And as an old coder, respect. But here's the thing. For every one Grace Hopper, first of all, if you never got out of Hong Kong, you would find 50 Grace Hoppers just in Hong Kong alone, let alone the rest of the world, okay?
Wow!
Yeah. If we're going to be real, let's be real. Listen, women really are good at things. Here's the nature of women. Women are really good at things that require nurturing, that require emotional connections, that require them to care about someone, okay? I'll never say that men care about other people more than women do. They never do. A woman's love is amazing, right? Especially for her family and just for humanity in general, all right? Men don't give a shit. I don't give a fuck about what happens to somebody else. Seriously, you think I give a shit what happens in fucking Tanzania right now?
Right.
Of course not. Intellectually, I might care, but emotionally, I don't give a shit. I don't think TV gives a shit either.
Right. It's like that Patrice line where...
What's that?
He was talking to...
Patrice O'Neill, R.I.P., by the way.
Yes. He was talking to a couple, and he was illustrating how much, men just don't really give a shit about, whatever. So he asked the man, what medicines is she on? And he just he had no idea.
Right.
But he asked the woman, and said, he's on this, he's on this. But yeah, no, you're right. Men do not care, just in general.
Now, here's what women don't realize, right? Women make great nurses, for example. When men become nurses, they're better than the women. But in general, why is nursing dominated by women? It's because if you talk to even doctors, right? They'll tell you that the people who keep those hospital wards running are really the nurses, not the doctors, right?
Yeah.
So respect the nurses. But the truth of the matter is the nurses are there because they're more caring. They'll
Right.
sit. They'll wipe your ass if you're sick. They'll take your temperature. They'll bring your food. They'll tuck you in when they don't have to, right? Doctors just come by, give you a shot, check on their stitches, and they walk the fuck out. They don't care, right? But here's the difference. What women are inherently good at, which is this nurturing and taking care of people, is not scalable, right? One woman can take care of what? 10 people maybe? 12 people if she's a super person, right?
Right.
Right? What are men good at? Software, coding, electrical things, mechanical things. These things scale, right? When Big John wrote his software to analyze player performance, I sold about 5,000 of those things. Guess what? Ain't no woman taking care of 5,000 patients. My point is, the reason that you might be off in your pay scale, among other reasons, is because men do things that can be sold over and over again without an increase in people, right? Women, one nurse can only take care of so many people, right? One HR executive can only take care of so many people. So to take care of more people, you need to hire more women, okay? That's part of the problem, you know.
You know, talking about like a female nurse.
Yeah.
At one time, sure, probably can't take care of more than 8 patients.
Right.
But patients keep rotating. Like, you're not going to have the same patient
No,
every
agreed,
single day.
but she's still limited to 8. So
at one time.
Yeah, so if you had
if she worked for like say 20 years,
right?
How many people did she have like an influence over?
Oh no,
for whatever reason?
Agreed, but you're not looking at it the right way. In other words, what I'm saying is she could take care of 8 people, like you said, at any given time. But what if 24 people come into the hospital at the same time?
Right,
you need 3 nurses.
Right.
What if 100 people want to buy my software?
Yeah.
All I do is press a button.
Right.
If 1,000 people want to buy my software, I just press the same button.
Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying? It's scalable.
Right.
Now, that isn't the only reason. Of course, the other reason that women get paid less is because they don't work as long as men. Because they're caretakers, they tend to go home to look after their children, whereas men stay late at the office, right?
So are you saying, like you just said, they get paid less, so are you admitting that?
They get paid less, but it's not because they're women. See, this is the thing. Just because something is happening, it's not a grand conspiracy, right? So, for example, women get paid less because they work fewer hours than men. This is statistics, by the way, something, again, that women don't understand typically. But women work fewer hours. This is a fact. Women tend to take time off from continuous service at work, right? Because they take time off to have kids. They take time off to stay at home to raise their kids, generally speaking, right? Mm-hmm. The reason you know that these are factors is because for the women that don't have kids, who don't marry, who stay in the workforce, who don't go home, their pay scale is identical to men's. There's a statistically insignificant difference, all right? And in some fields, the women earn more than men, okay? Now, you could blame society, you could blame genetics, blame whoever you want, but it's not because they're women per se. It's because they exhibit a certain type of behavior. And women just have to get on board with that. Don't blame men, right? So Jordan Peterson, have you heard of Jordan Peterson, DB?
I haven't heard of Jordan.
He's a clinical psychologist, and all the feminists hate him because he's pointing this shit out. But at one point, he pointed out a study from, I believe, Sweden or Denmark, one of those, very egalitarian nations that actually have laws that you have to pay men and women the same thing, and you have to have the same number of women on the board of directors, and so it's very egalitarian. Probably the most egalitarian place on the planet. Places where Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders want to be just like Sweden. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem, though. As soon as the data started coming back, when women were allowed to choose by law wherever they wanted to work and do whatever they wanted to do and not have to worry about making ends meet, guess what they chose to do more often than not?
Raise their kids?
That's right. Stay at home and raise their kids.
Well,
that's what they chose to do.
So let me ask you this, and this isn't really part of the argument because there's really no pay for it.
Right.
Which is more important to do? Work for someone else or raise your kids?
No, see,
I
agree.
know it's totally different.
I agree. So I would rather raise the kids.
Right.
So I'm not saying that what they do is not valuable. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
What I'm saying is you have to take this nonsense that there's gender inequality and that gender inequality will take 208 years to resolve. See, this is when you have to listen to stuff and think of it critically instead of emotionally, which is, by the way, a female trait, where you just listen to shit with your heart and not your head, okay? My mother, my wife, every woman I know does this, right? My mother, you could trot out Ted Bundy in front of her, and her first reaction would be, oh, his poor mother must be upset. All right? The fact that he's a fucking serial killer means less to her than his mother might be upset, okay? This is a typical female reaction, okay? Mm-hmm. But honestly, that's what you have to deal with, is understand that just because something exists, it doesn't mean it's bad. Like you pointed out, I personally place a great deal of value on raising children properly, okay? And there's a lot of people who will say that our society, the reason you have more shootings, the reason you have kids who don't know how to grow up and be adults, you know, they're trapped in this perpetual childhood, is because there hasn't been this steady influence at home from the mother and the father. But particularly from the mother, because women, economically, have had to leave the house, go work. They're not always home. They're helicopter parents, right? Again, nobody's fault in the sense that we're putting blame on anybody, but it is what it is. Let's face it, okay? And by the way, it doesn't mean that I'm saying women shouldn't have jobs. I'm not saying that women shouldn't go out into the workforce, okay? I'm a libertarian. Earn what you earn. But it's not libertarian to say you owe me because I'm a woman. Okay, there's no evidence to that. There are no laws to that, and there's no evidence to do that. So just realize that men are better at these things. All right, the other thing, DB, that you absolutely know is true. Women are horrible drivers. If you're ever on the road with a woman, and there's a woman either in your car or in a car somewhere in your vicinity, the odds of you getting in an accident have just doubled.
They said, how can you say, I definitely know?
Yeah.
How do I definitely know?
Well, you know, you're a driver.
Yeah.
You drive.
Yes.
Are you trying to tell me there are soccer moms driving a van full of about 12 rugrats that invariably end up in front of you on a one-lane highway where she is a good citizen and refuses to do more than 20 miles an hour here in New York? And no matter how much you honk and flash your lights, she'll just keep going. Or, better yet, here's another female move. Exclusive. I've seen this about 100 times,
yeah, okay.
And I'm not bullshitting you. Maybe 98 times have been females. Once maybe a gay guy and the other one a real man. So out of 100, okay, listen, what I'm trying to get at is women have no sense of anybody else when they're driving. They're so focused on themselves and their cargo. So I've seen women at interchanges literally get lost and stop at a complete halt in the middle of a highway until they figure out where to go. I'm not kidding you. Meanwhile, they never get in an accident. The guys avoiding them are the ones who get killed and die and like, you know, it's never the women getting killed. It's always they kill the men. See, at some level, I think this might be a conspiracy of some sort. Like all the women getting together saying, how can we fuck with these men?
Or maybe they're just getting rid of the ones that are lower in the bell curve.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe they're just targeting guys like me. But seriously, like women I've noticed, and this really gets my wife crazy because I'll point this out when we're driving somewhere, DV, and I'll say, I bet you that crazy driver in front of us is a woman. She goes, oh, you're just a misogynist. Then I speed up and pull up, I look over, it's a woman, and then she'll just look away from me because she knows I was right. So there you go. Boy. All right. 208 years for gender equality. This is the claim by that viral video, I think, on Upworthy. There's my final, what is it? We're already gender equal. As a matter of fact, I'll say the opposite. It'll take about 200 years for men to get gender equality in this society, all right? Because women are on top. I've already said, half the money, all the pussy. It goes to the women. And let me explain something to you. Pussy is the only thing that keeps men in line around women. Because we're constantly afraid that the supply will get cut off if we don't act the way we're supposed to act. Let's face it, if it wasn't for women, men would never get dressed nice. We'd be walking around in boxer shorts, scratching our balls all the time, maybe shower once a week, and in between, maybe go to work, and then the rest of the time we're playing Xbox and shit. Maybe a little Madden, right? You know, like maybe a little NBA Jam, you know, whatever, like that. A little Halo.
Right. You know what? This is the first time where I will actually agree with you.
What's that?
we would be total slobs.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Right?
I agree with
Well,
you.
let's face it. Women control men to a degree that is not aligned with either their physical or mental prowess. So keep that in mind when you're talking about gender equality. 208 years? Give us men 300. Then we'll catch up to you women. All right. Until next time, this has been Big John.
And I'm DV.
Catch you next time on All the Way. Don't forget, we'll have more videos, and we've also done some other ones. Hopefully you'll find them funny. Either click here or click here to get some more.